Terrie Wolf, thanks very much for coming on the Rocky Mountain Writer podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Took a little while to get this set up, but that's the way these things go sometimes.
That's
That's
right.
all
That's
good.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. For those who don't know, everything kind of came to a stop. I was looking at a herd of antelope right about 100 feet from us. And I thought my dog would panic. She did not, but I hit the ground, and I ended up breaking teeth and breaking my nose and road rash that was to die for, literally. um, and it was a painful thing, and it took forever. That's why we
Yeah,
couldn't get together in the
yeah.
beginning because I looked it was horrific. I mean, I think the worst part of it probably was when the dermatologist got the gunk out of my face, and I didn't know how much gunk there could be. So if that doesn't create a scene for someone
Oh,
to write about, I'll tell you. I can
wow.
give them details, anything they want to know.
Yeah. Was there,
So
I think you said there was ice involved?
no, it was a completely
Oh,
clear day. So
oh,
this is the thing that happens in Colorado. So
yeah,
I've heard more people say, "Yeah, I've done the same thing," and I think, really? What is it
yeah,
about it? So, maybe
yeah.
we're working too hard, and maybe we need to go fishing. And that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, we want to dive into your world, an AKA literary.
Mhm.
Could we just start out by giving us a little story about how you got into this business? At what point did you see that this is where your journey was going? Was it something you were after for a while, or did it just evolve over time?
Wow. If I say yes, yes, and yes, that kind of makes sense. So I attended Cambridge, um, and while I was there, I worked for Cambridge University Press, and I thought I would be an editor for all of my life because it was really intriguing work, and it was all scientific, and it was all these great brand new developments, and we would put them out in journals and that kind of thing. I was very, very excited to be a part of that. And while I was working there, I met a person from the city council in Cambridge. And she said, you should come work with us like 2 days a week. And so I did and started an amenities department, which really means like concerts and events and fun things. And I ended up I ended up doing tons of events, traveling literally all over Europe to figure out how they were doing events and why, because this was for the Queen's Council and it was a very big deal. So they sent me everywhere, and basically I got to know a lot of rock stars. I got to know a lot of pianists. I got to know a host of authors, and basically just very, very creative people, and ended up starting a thing that still is going on now. It's called the Strawberry Festival in Cambridge, and at that time I was young enough to think I could do anything, so I just contacted people and said, "Would you please be a part of our event?" And oddly, they agreed. So everybody from Iggy Pop to the Police to Mark Knopfler to uh, let's see who else, the Cars, and they all
Wow.
just kind of showed up. Better than that, they gave us stuff so we could pass it out. We also had world famous pianists and poets and authors of the day, and so people could kind of just mingle and see what was out there. And it ended up being a really great event. It still is. I mean, of course, now it's about 1,000 times better than it was then. And but from that, I was still working at Cambridge, and one day a person from Penguin was there, and they needed somebody in translation. And so I'm sort of fortunate because my mother was Greek, my father is German, um, and I grew up in a pretty typical Jewish household. So I had all of these languages around me all the time, and and I translated. That's all there was to it. So I thought I was going to go be a translator. In fact, I went into the rights department and worked on those foreign rights for Penguin UK. And then when I came back to the United States and went to Penguin for a while and edited there. Came home. I was here for actually for cow operations. We ranch, and my kids had gone fishing with my mom and dad, And some of the people from where we own property, we were out and about checking cows because that's what you do in the springtime, checking for pregnancy and such. And was I ended up a cattle truck hit us to be to be simple. I hit on my side, broke everything from my head to my pelvis. I called my editor at Penguin and he said, "It's time you become an agent." He said, "You're going to be in rehab for a long time." So I kind of laughed at the idea and I thought I would do foreign rights for somebody. So I ended up going to a place. I was there for literally a month and a half and the agent retired. Well, she had over 200 clients and I had 4 deals sitting on my desk. And so I knew I couldn't just quit. So the other person working there bought the agency. And a couple months later, she decided to get her MFA. And I suddenly had contracts on the desk and awaiting word on other things and so on and so forth. And I thought, okay, so maybe I'm not going to edit and maybe I'm not going to do foreign rights. Maybe, I'm just gonna agent. And as it worked out, it just turned into, one thing led to another and another. And we ended up actually forming our company. And for anybody who doesn't know, AKA stands for also known as, because so hopefully we're all writing at least one thing under a pen
Yeah.
name, maybe. So but also known as everybody in the business. So that was kind of our business model. And it's just grown since. So that was 2000, I have to think on this, 2009, I think.
Okay.
And
Wow.
we've been we've been doing a lot of foreign rights since. We've done I still have clients that were part of that sort of transition, and they were very, very patient to help me figure out how to be an agent, basically. So I still like the editorial side of it a lot. So I'm a very hands-on kind of agent, but so here we are. We just keep going.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And looking back, I mean, on that life-changing event that obviously literally came out of the blue, what does agenting mean to you? Is it satisfying? Is it more satisfying than it was working as an editor?
I don't know if there's a more satisfying. I think that with editing, there's a certain plan of action. I think with agenting, I like it because it's management. So I'm trying to help authors become all that they can, trying to help their works become all that they can, trying to find a great home for them to be. So it has its own amount of hurdles to jump through and over, if there's such a thing. I mean, maybe hoops to jump through and hurdles to jump over. Uh, but I don't know if there's a better than. I probably like it because it's a little bit more personable. You get to know clients very, very well. I mean, we've been through everything together from, babies being born to marriages to kids graduating school to life and death and everything in between. So, and
Yeah.
books being published. So, so
Mhm.
that part of it's really great when you get to work with people and they end up doing quite well.
And for those who have seen you out and about, and you are quite visible and active, they know we know you're very relationship based and very personable, low key, and all that good stuff. So that probably I would assume it appeals to you that side of you that enjoys relationships. Yeah.
Fundamentally, I think it's funny. I hear authors say all the time, well, I'm a pretty shy person. I'm pretty withdrawn. I'm pretty much an extrovert. Well, I think that's why you can write, to be honest, because you can be that way. If you're very, very gregarious, you're you're out and about, having lunch all the time, doing whatever you're doing. So you're probably not spending enough time on the writing side of things. I think agents are the same way, truly. I don't know. When I was a little kid, my father used to say that I could talk to a wall and figure out why it was the color it was because, that was the paint that was chosen or whatever. And I can truly. I mean, I like getting to know people. I like relationship. I really like helping people along, but I've always been that person in the back. So like when I was at Cambridge and when I was doing immunities, I didn't go on stage per se. I was the person behind the stage all the time, and that was good. Same thing now. I'm really, really happy being behind people, standing behind and aside and maybe every so often in front of them just to help them through. But I just think that's how it has to be. So I don't know if there's I don't know if there's an I like one thing better than another because I
Yeah,
do get to edit in the process. So it's kind of the best
yeah,
of all worlds, really, when you get down to it.
right. Can you give us an idea of just the size? How many clients do you have right now, and how many other folks on your in your office?
Let's see. So client wise, I have, I think right now I have 46 clients.
Wow.
Of those that are being shopped, there are only 19 that are being shopped right now, just short of 20. Only because kind of a long story, but so Dawn Donnell, who was also an agent, Dawn was one of my very best friends. And when she passed away, I said, hey, here all of her people, and this is publishing, but, her people may have been at contract level, they may have been under consideration, they may, different levels of situations. So I just said, whoever needs help, I'm here. I figured two or three people would let me know that they needed help. Instead, I mean, we had people, publishers dropping them because obviously they didn't have representation. So I took on a couple of them, and it's been a really great combination of I'll just say the people I've worked with for a long time and people that I haven't worked with for very long at all. Um, as for the office itself, there's myself, and then our business manager who handles, the tech side and the all of that kind of thing, the business side, if you will. And then from time to time, I have interns. I find that I don't do well with interns only because um, they're only here for a short time. So,
Yeah.
they just about start knowing what
Yeah.
they're doing, and then, oh, guess what? Semester's over. So, and interestingly, I've never had an intern who has gone on to become an agent. So maybe it's harder than I know. But we've done it for so long together. My business manager and I work very well together. So um, that just seems to work. And I couldn't ask for a better business manager, to be honest. And then I have one other person who manages manuscripts and the reading. We have a picture book club. We meet the last Friday of the month. When I'm really serious about a picture book, they all come in and I read it to them. And literally on Zoom, we're reading the story, and you can just look at the faces to see how do people feel about this book. And it's either
Uh,
an instant hit or Terrie, you are wrong. So um, and then we have, and I'm very fortunate that my clients are, we're pretty cohesive. We're a nice cohesive bunch. So there are people who help present with workshops and things that we do in house.
gotcha. Wow. Just so folks know out there, what kinds of things do you look for? Do you have special interests in terms of fiction that you are searching for, or do you not do YA, that kind of thing? Can you talk about what your interests are?
I um I have this insatiable curiosity, so I'll look at anything except for I don't understand sci-fi. I just have to be honest. I don't get it. Um and it's because I think I'm a pretty analytical person. I don't I don't take erotica because there again, I don't get it. So, it's silly for me to take something that I don't understand. Um and I mean, for the most part, what I'm taking right now, I'm taking a lot of mystery, thriller, suspense, that kind of thing. Um, some women's fiction, some romance, some picture books, middle grade, young adults, nonfiction. I have several really great nonfiction projects. So I think I worked in television when I came back to the United States and when I came back to Colorado, and I think as as one does, you have to have your eyes open on toward the world, what's going on out there. Now that I'm doing foreign rights, I spend a lot of time thinking, will this project be popular in Hungary, or will it be popular in, I don't know, Guatemala? Who knows? So you always have to think about what's out there, what needs to be out there, what editors are looking for, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. What do you most wish to communicate to folks who are querying you and think that you're the perfect match for their work? What if you could wave a wand and give them all some instant knowledge about the state of the industry and what the sort of the mechanics are behind the scenes of what you have to
Hmm.
do to make choices about bringing somebody onto your roster, what kinds of things would you like to just sprinkle dust out there on all the would-be clients of yours?
If I could sprinkle, let's see here, I'm thinking. Um, Number one, it's the long haul. Um, it's okay that it takes a long time because I don't believe that I don't expect people to be perfectly ready when they come on board. They won't be because they don't know what to expect. They don't know, unless they're really seasoned. I mean, they may have 5 or 6 books out and they do sort of know what to do. I'm really laid back. I'm sort of the anti-agent because I mean I think there's this huge drive for a lot of agents, and if you don't sell the book in sort of 3 months, then you're dropped. And I don't think that's fair. I think it's a lot about it's about career development. If I could do one thing, it would be that every single one of my agents, or I mean, sorry, my clients, I think every one of their books would be on that sign at Times Square, or it would be a national something. It would be and the other part of that is it's not fair for me to say what it is. It's fair for me to know what they want it to be. So if they want it to become a movie, then it's my right and my responsibility to make sure that it gets there. If it wants to become an audio book, some people want to do audio only. It's really about knowing the client and what they want. I'm kind of here to I don't know if stage mom is a great term, but I mean I'm kind of the mom. Everybody calls me mom anyway. So I'm kind of stage mom that directs and manages. So if I could tell them one thing, it would be, and I said this one time in an interview, and everybody laughed at me, but I always say practice your autograph because every time you sign it, that's one step closer to a sold book. You have to believe in yourself, and there's so much rejection out there. We know that, but so what? It's rejection is it's just pushing you in a better direction. So, um, I think it would be really and truly be calm and be patient and be good to yourself and believe in yourself and all these things a good mom would tell one of their kids. But it is that way because we do be, we you do get to be very close and I mean, you're working on something precious. It's not just a couple of words on a page. So that's probably what I would say. Probably, there's that thing about, talk to your 15-year-old self. Well, you're always 15, whether you're 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. I don't care. You're still 15 and you're still impressionable. Be careful what you read. Be savvy. If this is your job, I'm expecting you to treat it like your job. Probably the hardest news I would want to share is that if I love your project more than you do, if I remain more interested in your project than you do, then sometimes it's time to rethink your project or rethink your place. Do you really want to be an author? Do you really want to do the work? Sometimes I shouldn't have to convince you of it, if that makes sense. A pep talk is one thing, but the day that you just say, this isn't working for me. I mean, my buzzwords are always when people say to me, well, if you don't represent me, I'm just going to self-publish. Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with self-publishing. I serve on the board for Colorado Independent Publishers Association, but it's the fact that if it's this, then if not
Yeah.
this, then that. It's like, okay, how much do you think you really want to work with somebody? Because I'm going to drive you, and I'm going to drive you hard. I have to because we have to present the best product that we can. So,
Yeah.
which is a lot of information for somebody just coming on.
Yeah. What is the current state of the industry in your mind? Do you have lots and lots of options of places to go with a new client? Is it a robust market out there right now, or is it still, I don't know,
Hmm.
tightening?
I think it is still tightening, but I will tell you, I think that every day it gets a little bit better. And I mean, reasons behind that. One, we aren't striking. No one is striking right now. That really, really did affect the industry. How many strikes in a couple months? And I think number two, supply chain issues are changing. That was a very, very difficult thing to get through. We had we had so many issues of well, we can't get paper, or we can't get the right paper, we can't get, so we have to go here, we have to go there, that kind of thing, which slowed down everything. um I'm seeing a different, I'll call it, viability within the market for a long time, I didn't notice that editors were very interested in, I don't want to say much of anything, but they weren't interested in stepping out. And I think it was because they didn't know where we were. We didn't know what we wanted, where we were, what direction we were headed in. So we were going through Penguin talks, we were going through uh, Macmillan talks, we were going through Simon and Schuster talks. It was a pretty confusing time for a lot of people within the industry. Now we have a better terminology of where we're at. We're much better equipped. And I think that probably the harder part of it is that uh, we've had a lot, there were buyouts offered. So pretty much everybody over the age of 50 was offered the buyout, and that depends upon the house, of course. So it could be 50, 55, but somewhere in there. So they were offered full benefits for the rest of
Yeah.
their lives. Well, I'm sorry, but I would have grabbed it, and I
Yeah.
mean, you have to think about where you're at. So we have a lot of younger, and when I say younger, I don't mean age-wise, but I mean younger, less mature uh, uh, editors right now. When I was an editor, I had 12 editors working with me. So I could always go to one or the other for help. Um, I don't know that that's completely true right now because they don't have that hierarchy. I don't want to call it a hierarchy, but it's a hierarchy. Those executive editors, they have years of experience that these authors or these editors who haven't been around for so long, um, they unfortunately, they're kind of going by the seat of their pants. Um, and that's interesting. The other thing that's happened, I think, as a result of pandemic, and I think as a result of all this wait, we've also figured out we're better about self-care. So uh, editors are, we now have, there's certain days I should and could submit. Whereas before, maybe you threw something out of, 5 o'clock on a Friday. Well, I would never do that now. Um, Monday, I always thought Monday's a great day. Well, no, because they call it meeting Monday. I would never submit on a Monday. And Wednesday is Wellness Wednesday. So a lot of imprints are still doing the wellness. They're doing things for their editors. So it becomes a situation where they're looking at that work-life balance. A lot more people are working home or from home, maybe one day, 2 days in the office. So uh, it's just different. But we're also acclimating. We're all acclimating to that reality.
Yeah. Wow. So I have a lot of friends who have good agents, and one common complaint, and I hope my agent is not listening to this, is that it can go, you can send in an email and it can be weeks and weeks and weeks till you get a reply. Even just a question about, did you read that latest thing I sent you? Um,
Mhm.
you do something which I think is really should be the model for all the
Oh,
agents out there,
uh-oh.
which is you make a point of touching base every month with all of your clients. So if that's 46, what, 20 or 30-minute conversations with every single one of your
Mhm.
clients. Um,
Right, right.
when did you start that, and did you start that out of your own volition, or was that something you heard complaints from your clients?
No, no, it wasn't about complaints. It's about the fact that we need to stay in touch. And I do have a couple clients who they don't want to talk until
Yeah,
deal notice comes through. They don't care. They don't want
yeah,
to be a part. And that's okay if that's how they work. That's how they work. I still ask. The other thing that we do is we do a monthly meeting uh, that where we all get together. And I've had
wow.
other agents just, I mean, literally yell at me. I had an agent say to me, you are ruining my life. Because, but I mean, I'm not the only one who does that. Quite a few people do that, because I think it's important that we know one another. How do you support someone's release if you don't know who that person is? Um, we also do. I do when people are new to the agency. We do a newcomers meeting, and because it's really important, as you're talking about contract, and this is what's going to happen, and I'd like to represent you. They're not hearing it. They're just going, guess what? I got offered representation. So I always do the newcomers meeting, and sometimes that's one person, maybe, and like within the case of signing the people that were formerly represented by Dawn, um, a couple people are scheduled for that meeting. Uh, so I just think it's important to It's communication. That's all there is to it. I've never been good about being in the dark. And it's not, I don't want to know the deep, dark secrets, but unless I need to know them. Sometimes if maybe you're not handing in your edits, or maybe I'm not hearing from you. Well, it could be that something's going on in your life. So I want to know, is there a way I can help? Do we need to take a back seat for a minute and let you get through whatever you're going through? Um, I just think it's good practice. Um, and I just like to talk. So that's probably the truth about, what's next on your plate. What are you working on? What don't you want to work on? So on and so forth. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of agents out there that don't want the word to get out about that kind of model practice, but I know there's a lot of writers who are not going to suggest that to their agents, even
Well,
though,
I can be honest. I can be honest and say they're probably selling books a whole lot quicker than I am, but that doesn't mean that they're selling them better. So it's really important to me to find the place that the work belongs. And I mean, some people think they want to be with a huge publisher from the very beginning, and that's sometimes that's the right choice. Sometimes it's not. Um, Sometimes they're not ready for it. Sometimes we have to work on certain aspects of whatever they're doing. So some people want to be with a tiny publisher. Well, okay, what does that entail as well? So, it's about getting to know people and working with them. Uh, this is their career that we're talking about. So it's just really important to me.
yep. Can you give folks an idea? It's kind of a common question, but I think it's always helps to just get the word out about the sheer volume of queries that you might get in a week or in a month when you're open for submissions. I looked and it looks like you're right now not open for submissions, but
Right.
that will change soon. And when that happens, what does that look like?
Um, I can tell you a story that probably illustrates it the best. I was named an agent of 2020 by Writer's Digest, top agents of 2020. And I really think they had 19 and they just sort of needed to throw somebody in. So
I
somehow
doubt
my name came, into the mix. But I mean, because these were really incredible agents. And but the funny thing was is the day that the story came out for the September issue in 2020. And that day, I received 8,000 submissions. So, which was hilarious because I get an email as submissions come in. So not only did I have 8,000 submissions, I also had 8,000 email that I knew. And I thought, wow, and I really thought that in the beginning, I thought, okay, something happened and someone's playing a really cruel joke. And oh my goodness, what's taken place? And as we went through it, we figured it out. So, Writer's Digest is a 2 month magazine, so that was September. In October, so October 1st, they basically re-up everything that they've done. And on October 1st, I received just over 6,000 submissions.
Wow.
So, sadly, I don't really think people read the article. I
Yeah.
just by what I received. Um, I I received a lot of things that were, one, they it wasn't a complete manuscript. Two, it was not, Writers Digest asked for a certain way of submitting. So directions weren't followed. So note to self, follow the directions.
Yeah.
Um, Number three, it wasn't, there again, it was a lot of sci-fi and it was a lot of erotica, truly. And I just thought that was kind of a funny, strange joke because that's like the two things
Yeah.
I don't really take.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, it was brutal. We then, as you'll recall, in Colorado, we had the fires. We ranch and we were moving cattle in the whole 9 yards. I got to be the lucky one, and we all of our cows were about 45 minutes from me. So my husband would drive and I would read as we drove, and then we would feed and we would come back and I would read the entire way. And I realized it wasn't, there was just some kind of work-life balance here that it
Yeah.
was not present. Um, but I got through them. Probably the
Wow.
hardest part was we had the fires, and so then we had to, of course, like everybody else, we had to recover from the fires. And then our ranch manager ended up having triple or quadruple bypass. So
Mm.
suddenly we were without a ranch manager. So that was that side of the business where what are we going to do? Well, I have to tell you, I spent a lot of times literally sitting in the field, in the pasture on the quad, reading manuscripts because it was like, what else am I going to do? So, it was kind of interesting and kind of fun at the same time. But on a normal, I mean, I think on a normal month, in a normal month, like after, I usually I get a lot of my work, my clients from the conferences that I attend. I just feel like I like knowing the people I'm working with, or at least having an idea of who they are. And I would say, if I open to conferences, if I open to just submissions in general, last year we kept a tab, and I think that it was right in the average of about, give or take, about somewhere between about 1,200 and 15, maybe 18,000 or 1,800 per month. So, um, that's my
And
fault
how,
though, because I like so many things. So
yeah. Did any clients come out of the 14,000 from the Writer's Digest surge at
no,
all? Okay.
no. However,
And okay. What's the however?
yeah. However, from Thriller Fest, I have signed several. From let's see where else. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head. Writer's Digest, I've signed several. And Writing Away. If nobody knows about Writing Away, for me, it's a great little conference. That it's a retreat. It's online, and uh, it's Cicely Janis. A lot of people within Rocky Mountain fiction writers probably remember Cicely. Cicely actually started it, and then Cicely passed away, and one of her friends kind of took over. I love the event just because I get to spend time with those authors. And it is Zoom. I'm actually going to be doing the in-person one in oh gosh, in October. But I think there are a lot of very cool events like that that you can take part in and get to know people. Even if it's on Zoom, you get to know one another. I'm open. I mean, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I will anyway. I have a calendar system, and I invite people to come in and book time. If you want to know whether or not your work would be a good fit, book 30 minutes and just tell me about your work. Um,
Wow.
I'm okay with that. Or, if are you having a hard time with, chapter 9, or if you're having a hard time with the transitioning into the third act, whatever it is. Or maybe it's a career question. I'm absolutely okay with that.
And that can
So
be somebody you don't represent. That can be just a writer and a writer who wants to talk to you.
absolutely.
Wow.
Where are
Do you
we
sleep?
without
Do you
our
sleep?
authors?
Do you sleep? Wow.
Well,
Huh.
yeah, absolutely. I do. But I do think it's really important. I mean, I think agenting is all about putting the pieces where they belong. And sometimes they work, and sometimes you realize that you end up with a different puzzle, so to speak. But it always works out. It always works out the way
Yeah.
it's supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, yeah, those conferences, those in person, I've always said to other writers, to me that moving away from all these slush piles that are out there with agents, to invest your time in getting to know an agent at a conference and just being a real person in front of them and not being that desperate, hungry
Yeah.
for an agent, but just building a relationship, going to
Hmm.
see the panels that they're on, maybe chatting with them over coffee. That really is a much higher possible way to
Right.
establish a relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
I firmly believe we should have like a round table. I don't know, something that takes place where I can ask you a question and you can ask me a question, and all the way around the table, sort of the telephone game. And if I said I only want to see mystery, by the time I got all the way around the table and you're sitting next to me, you'd look at me and you'd say, "So you're taking mystery and you're taking romance and you're taking," you know what I mean? And I mean, it's how it works. That's why it's so important to be in person, because I would correct and say, "Oh, wait, let's talk on that." So, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, I just think we need to know each other. And that's why, I mean, as much as I have to tell you, I am not a great fan of social media. I I don't understand it to this day. Um, but I'll tell you that you get to know people, and you get to know people by their responses. You get to know people by their interactions. You get to know them by their enthusiasm, not only for their own projects, but for others. And that's something that editors look at all the time. I mean, they're always wanting to know, okay, do you really and truly have 40,000 followers, or do you know nine of them? And it's okay if you know nine of them, but are you interacting with them? So, they want to know that you're going to get out there and basically talk about what you're doing. It's important, and you're supporting, in essence, the rest of the industry.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
As we got ready to have this chat, you
Mhm,
suggested a couple of topics which I thought were really interesting and topics we don't really hear about very much out there
mhm,
in the
mhm,
world of agenting, which had to do with planning ahead for the day when we're no longer walking around this planet and we have left
mhm.
behind some books and we've got some publications out there, but we
Right.
assume we're going to be here forever and that we're going to keep writing books forever, but that's not the case. But you
No.
you you had some interesting insights on this, and so I wanted you to dive in a little bit on that topic.
Okay. This is not anything that we ever want to think about, but believe it or not, yes, one day we're all going to go. Um, for a published author, and this isn't quite so important for people who are seeking representation, but for a published author, if you're receiving royalties, if you receive that advance, I mean, you are a published author. Therefore, this is part of your business. Even if you're still working, I don't care where during the day and writing at night, it's really important that that side of it is taken care of. In my contract, I actually ask for the name of successors and or your state uh, attorney, because I've fallen into the situation where I've lost clients, and I have one who has I don't mind telling you, over $40,000 in royalties waiting, sitting in probate, because there was no agreement, there was no will, there was nothing. So that makes it really problematic. Um, the publisher elected to keep the books going, and the public. Now, sometimes within your writing contract, it'll say, and it always says something to the degree of successors will continue to receive royalties. But if they don't know who the successors are,
Right,
then who's going to receive them? So,
right.
in my contract, I listed, and I'm pretty open about the fact that I don't want to know all your business. I just want to make sure that your business carries on. I want to make sure that everything you worked for and everything you deserve and everything your successors deserve will be received. And and that's just kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah. That's
Mhm,
just complete planning. That's thinking of everything. That's you know,
mhm,
it's
mhm.
important. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can imagine with books that, well, have gone on to be sustained bestsellers long after the author has passed away, you've got to have that in place. And you're really talking about developing generational wealth in some cases with some of these
yes,
titles. And it's important to lock it down, but probably important
yes.
no matter your relative scale, even if it's a
Right.
few $1,000s a year, it's important. Yeah.
Even if it's next to nothing, the fact that it, and there's an amount on probate, of course, but when you start figuring out all of these little things that you have, and let's just say that, for example, you have a vehicle, and you have a house, and you have a boat, because we're going to dream a little bit, and you have this work, and let's say that all of that stuff right now, let's say that it amounts to at least $80,000. Well, probably everyone we know who lives in a house, probably that house is worth $80,000. So right there, there's grounds, if it's not allocated for someone, um, it'll go into probate. It's just a fact. It's the same thing with anything else you have. So I don't care if you're making $21 a year in royalties.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you don't want it to sit. It's the fact that it needs to go to those people that we would, we can assume, I guess I should say, that maybe your children are going to get it, or maybe your wife or husband or partner. That said, what if, what if? I mean, I think it's really important to say, I have an author, and I mean, people laugh about it, but I have an author who gave her estate to the African Violet Society. And I thought, really? Yeah. But she's also providing a really nice little bit of change, every royalty period, um, so that they can put on seminars and workshops and things for African violet enthusiasts. Who would have ever thought such a thing? So yeah,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
okay. It's how you want to spend your money. So yeah,
yeah,
what do you want to be remembered for?
yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, just back to searching and being in the role you're in, I assume that there must be a great deal of pleasure if I were in your shoes to just discovering a really cool new writer and just that moment of reading something that is just so appealing to you, but that you get it and that you are just, sort of basking in the pleasure of reading something that you know you can bring to a wider audience.
Well, I'll be honest and tell you that probably two-thirds of what I write or what I read, I think, oh my goodness, I can do this, I can take it, I can make it happen. I mean, yeah, of course. And that's it. And I think most agents are that way. And then they have to sort of focus in a little bit, you know. Um, there's nothing like it though when you read it and you just see that thing behind it. A lot of times people think it's an instantaneous thing. Um, I've had more of the experience that the people that I work with, it's been a development. Um, Sometimes it takes 5 years to get to the
Yeah.
point that we're actually submitting, uh,
Wow.
or 5 years worth of submitting, one of the two, whichever way
Yeah.
it works. Doesn't mean it's bad work. It means it's not right for the market at that point. Probably though, yeah, I hate, it's so hard to choose. Right now, I mean, I can tell you only because it's timely. I'll do this. I'll throw this book out that's been
Yeah.
sitting behind me the whole time. My choice would be Byron Graves, Resball. Byron is Byron lives here in Colorado. He lives in Denver, and he's just taking the world by storm. There, and I have to admit that when I hit the editor with, well, it's a story about a kid who plays basketball, she just went, I mean, it was just long,
Yeah.
oh, really, you know. And I said, but there's more to it than that, you know. And so I explained it to her just a little bit, and she said, so wait a second. So now he feels like he's sort of his community's only hope. And I said, kind of. I said, sort of Friday Night Lights, and I don't know what, but it's not Friday Night Lights. It's more a story of you know of perseverance and dreaming and all the things that we know are going on right now, everything. um and written by a really really passionate author who I have to tell you is really a brilliant writer. But um I sent her the first 10 pages and she said, I think I need to see more of this. And so, I mean, I knew it also took us, I mean, I don't mind, and I don't think Byron would mind me saying it took us 5 years to get through to the point where we liked it. And then it
Wow.
was workshopped with an editor, and her name is Cynthia Letitia Smith, and Cynthia does wonderful work in kids literature. Uh, and she sent me a note and she said, I really think this is something. So I kind of knew that maybe something was going on. But from the time that I sent it in to the time that it was accepted, it was about I think it was about 9 days. So it was okay.
Wow.
Um, since
Yeah.
that time, he has, let's see, so he won, let's see, this year he won the American Library Association's debut young adult award. He won the Indigenous Author Award. He has, oh, what else has he won? Of course, I'm drawing a blank and I'm supposed to know
Yeah.
all these things. Basically everything that he can win, he's won. Probably the coolest thing, for me anyway, is the fact that early into this thing, I started writing um, basketball players, and um, I I didn't know, and I mean there again that comes from that curiosity, and gosh, if I know rock stars, basketball players aren't that different, right? So I started writing and just saying, I'm not looking for endorsement. I'm looking for someone to read the book. because I kind of wanted that sensitivity reader feeling. And, I can't tell you that I heard from anybody really, but this last weekend at the NBA All-Stars game, out of all of the books out there, they contacted me and said, "Hey, could we include this book in our packet for the families who come for
Wow.
All Stars?" So
Wow.
every NBA family present, they received that was in their goodie bag along with I don't know what.
Wow. That is
so
just a great
so
story. Wow.
So I mean
That's great.
that's that dream a little dream thing,
Yeah.
it's that
Yeah.
and it's just nowhere but up. So right now I'm
Wow.
certainly I'm fangirling and I'm honored and I'm humbled and I get teary over it and I think I knew, but and I can tell you that I mean probably of the authors I represent, I would say probably easily 99% of them could be that person. So
Yeah.
I feel good about that. Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's a great story to wrap up on, and shows 5 years of work leads to 9 days of wow. It seems like it's just all happened, but it was a lot of
Mhm,
preparation behind that.
mhm,
Yeah, what
mhm.
a great
Yeah.
story. Wow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
really,
We were really happy with it. So it's been good, and he's writing the second book now, and I mean, I think that's maybe the thing to wrap up on is that you just keep going. There are going to be days when you don't want to write. There are going to be days when you're tired of the rejection. There are going to be days when you're tired of your agent or your editor or your readers. We can be honest about that. But in the meantime, enjoy the ride. It's really, really fun. And it's life changing. That's all there is to it. Words matter. So we have to keep them going.
I'm not going to beat that for a way to close. Terry Wolf, thank you so much for your time today and for jumping on the podcast. And we will see you at the conferences down the road out there and about. But thank you again.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it and I can't tell you what it means.
Thanks, Terry. So, Terry, 2 days later, we needed to fill a gap. And in fact, I want to point out, I was actually thinking in the back of my mind, should I ask Terry about Margaret Mizushima, what she means to you as an agent, and also just call her out a little bit because she seems like such a role model in terms of just being a professional writer. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about asking you about that, and I thought maybe you didn't want to single out one of your clients. So I didn't, but you
Mhm.
emailed me after we chatted, after we
Right.
hung up the phone, and said we really needed to spend a few minutes talking about Margaret. So I'm glad you
Mhm.
reached out, and yeah, let's talk about obviously one of your stars and just somebody who is just such a wonderful presence in the writing community.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. First of all, thanks for getting back together. I had to think
Yeah,
about what I was wearing and the whole bit. I don't even know. So for anybody who watches this, if we're different, it's just because it's a new day.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's
but
okay.
I'm so glad that you agreed to do it because when you said, is there a book? I mean, I kind of thought, well, yeah, is there an author? Well, yeah. I mean, the good news is the really good news for me is that I have some wonderful clients. I'm very, very fortunate, and I have good relationships with them. And we're working, really hard together and working well together. We have so many opportunities, and through it all, Margaret came when the original agency closed down. She came over with me, and that was 2009. Well, we didn't sell her book for 5 years. I heard nobody's going to want a book that has a dog and some investigator person who might be possibly a little bit troubled and moving through the steps and that kind of thing and learning about her life and so on and so forth. So I mean, for years we heard this. And so we kind of got to the point where how many rewrites do we need to do? And it was always over silly things like, oh, I don't like the fact that she has dark hair. Maybe she should have blonde hair. And I thought, this is not a point.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but through it all, Margaret, to her credit, I mean, she would diligently, everything that I offered up, she'd say, okay, yeah, we can do that. Or, okay, could we do it this way? So yes, of course, now we've been working together since 2009. So my goodness gracious, I mean, that's a long time to be working with someone. And in that time, as you know, her book came out, her first book, Killing Trail, and boom, I mean, literally hit it by storm. And
Yeah.
suddenly, there were one or two other books out there, but they were more romance and that kind of thing. So uh, it just has taken off. And probably the better part of that story is that as we talk about authors and as they envision their careers and where do you want to be and what do you want, I was very particular about where she was going because she was a debut author. I wanted to have that hopefully that back of house presence for her. And she didn't know what she needed because she was a debut author. And back then we knew a whole lot less about it than we do now. But we had to figure out how to do things like social media, Facebook and Twitter, and even now Instagram, so on and so forth. And now she's taken that and she's so great to support everyone. I mean, we know within this writing community all the things she's done, and you just kind of step back and go, oh, I couldn't have asked for a better client too. I could ask for a better friend. And three, I think the writing community couldn't ask for a better presence. So, when you said book, I kind of went, okay, we have to, of course, talk about one that everyone knows about, but the reality is we also have to talk about career. And her next book is coming out in the fall, and we're pretty excited about that. And I mean, I'm just hoping that people grasp it and go, wow, this is what it's called to be a career author. So she's just done a great job, and she's so helpful. I mean, when we have new clients come in and that kind of thing, she's the first to welcome. She's very supportive on social media, and you know that because she's with everybody. So I couldn't ask for a better partner in crime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the book that comes out this fall is number 10, maybe, or I'm not
Number
sure.
nine.
Number
Number
9. Okay.
nine.
Yeah. So
So it'll be
so what
fun.
are so take Margaret's trajectory and her career, and how would you extrapolate the lessons for anybody else who's coming into the business? I mean, that I did not know that she waited that many years to sell that first book.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
actually have to mention I was doing a talk at the Berthoud, Colorado Library one
Mm.
night when she approached me as an unpublished writer and just wanted to get to know me and introduce me to Charlie. And
Yeah.
I was, as always, very appreciate when other writers come up.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I had written some outdoor mysteries featuring a female
Right.
hunting guide, and so
Right.
her books, there was a connection there. And I just really wished her well. Well, she has blown my doors off in terms of putting a putting books out there, and just really just her dedication and her
Mhm.
I feel like her craft has improved.
Oh yeah.
Her probably and for sure her efficiency at telling stories,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she's just brought so much imagination to her characters and her plots and things like that. But
Mhm.
from an agent's perspective, we're talking about a dream client, right? Who just continues
I
to
was
produce. She doesn't, I can't imagine Margaret Mizushima complaining about anything.
not often, not
Yeah,
nearly
yeah,
often enough, maybe I should say,
yeah,
because yeah, you'd think after a certain point in time, as well as she's done, you know, I've seen people, and it's not just authors, it's anyone, there's that thing where they kind of can't get through the door because their head is too big. And no, Margaret is as kind and sweet and loving and wonderful and supportive as she was the day I met her. So it's I think when you say, what do you take out of it? What does this person need to think about who's really thinking about this life that we call author? I think number one, it's to be kind to yourself. Number two is to believe in yourself. And that sounds so trite, and it's so, I mean, I know everyone says this. It's so cliche, but you are going to face rejection. You are going to face frustrations, and you know that you have the best book in the world, and because your mom said so. I mean, and
yeah, yeah,
and then nobody wants it. Well, I think the biggest thing to realize is it's not that they don't want you, it's not that they don't want the book, it's that they don't want it right now. And I think from working with Margaret, we've learned a lot about even just sort of breaking down. I have a sign on my wall that says, break the rules. Well, no, we don't want someone with Oh, a German Shepherd of all things, because they're scary. Well, no, they're
Yeah.
not. But I think as you look at your career, I mean, I think those are the most important things. Stay healthy. When you feel tired, I mean, and I know everybody thinks they have to get to the last part of that chapter and that kind of thing. I always say when you're tired, you stop right there. I don't care if it's in the middle of a sentence or the middle of a paragraph, just stop because your brain is going to kick back into motion when it's not quite so exhausted. And when we exhaust ourselves, I can tell you when I look at a manuscript, I can almost tell what's going on in people's lives throughout the manuscript. And you probably can too. And you can say, oh, they were tired there. And oh, they had had a fight, they'd had an argument with somebody there, and you
Yeah.
can just kind of pick it through. And it's learning to be, I suppose then the word is to be consistent and to be I just think gentle. And then maybe the biggest thing I think is to be kind. When you talk about Margaret introducing herself, we should all be introducing ourselves. Agents are truthfully, I mean, I think people think they're bigger than life and all that stuff. No, I mean, you can tell I'm not. And I don't think, I mean, I'm just a kid who grew up in Colorado. I mean, I'm a fourth generation Coloradan. And I mean, we're a ranching family. My dad was a firefighter, four generations of firefighters for Denver. I mean, we're just common people, just like everybody else is. Even if you're royalty, you're still common people. So it's knowing that we're all the same and we're all in this together. And it's so scary, when you go to conferences and that kind of thing, and you see people, and you just see this, there are how many people, and and you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. Well, what do you do? Hi, you walk up, and if you shake hands, you shake hands. If not, you give them the shoulder or the bump, and just say, I know your work, or maybe you don't know their work. I know
Yeah.
probably the biggest faux pas I've ever made in my career. I was at an event, and George R. R. Martin was there, and there was no place to sit. And so I walked over and sat next to him, not realizing, I mean, I'd seen pictures, but, sat down next to him. And I said, "Do you mind if I sit here?" He said, "No, no, not at all." And we ended up having this nice talk. We ended up having supper together that night. And since we've just remained, great friends, he's a really great person. And he said, "Why did you sit next to me?" He said, and he even asked me, he said, "Are you waiting for my autograph?" And I said, "If you'd like to give it to me, but not really." But the best part was I finally said, I introduced myself, and of course you have the little tags. Well, his was it was G Martin. It wasn't George. So hi G, how are you? And and I think that was the thing. I mean, I can remember a couple of my friends at the conference saying, "You just walked up and sat down. What were you thinking?" And I said, "Well, I needed to sit down. It's hot, and I can't eat standing up." So, it was as simple as that. And I can't hold my drink in the whole bit. And it was so funny because he was so helpful. As I sat down, he said, "May I hold your drink for you?" "Yes, thank you." And I sat down and got kind of situated, and they had little hors d'oeuvres and that kind of thing. And I realized, he probably is as shy, if not more shy, than every author that we know out there. So, I
Yeah.
mean, put yourself out. Say,
Yeah.
"Hi, I'm writing this, I'm writing crime fiction. And you don't have to give everybody the whole 9 yards, but I think I'm writing crime fiction, and my protagonist happens to be, oh, something, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy reading? Things like that. I
Yeah.
can't tell you the number of just amazing affiliations you can come up with, as long as you're not afraid to hear people and really listen to people. I mean, that's part of it, but this is your business. If this is your business, then you act like this is your business. So be consistent, be concise, be forgiving, be kind, be interested. I think that would be maybe the five, I'd say, and
Yeah.
believe, if there's such a word as believe.
I like that.
You just can't. You just can't. I don't know if you can see it on my wall. I have a sign, and I don't think you can see it, but it says be, it has a picture of a bee. It says be happy. And then there are all these little things to be happy about. And my son made it for me when he was little. I mean, still in middle school. And I look at that every so often and go, I have so much to be happy for. I have so much to be grateful for. I mean, just be. That's the whole thing. And it's scary to do that. It's scary to be original, and to be I don't know what is the word, to be authentic. I think the word of the year actually this year is authentic, or authenticity or authentic. I can't remember. But I mean, yeah, be authentic. You don't have to be
Yeah.
anybody special for anyone, but mind your manners, So I
Yeah.
mean, that's probably
Yeah.
it. Yeah, And by the way, Margaret, she's doing all those things. Um, and so many other people in this writing community are doing exactly that. We need to support one another and
Yeah.
be there, So
I think Margaret's middle name could be authentic. So that's,
yeah.
she's the walking, talking version of that. So
Well, right. Well, and
yeah.
the other thing I would say, if there's a caveat, I would say also be compatible. If you have someone in your life that is really angry about your writing, I will admit that I have clients whose partners, mothers, fathers, whoever, kids, you know, they don't necessarily support the mission. And you do have to be compatible. You do have to build this into your life. And if you have someone who's constantly on you about it, you may have to go to the library to write. I have a client who sits in her car and writes because her husband watches a lot of sports and she can't she can't concentrate. So she sits in her car. And I was thought, okay, well, if that's what works for you. And that is absolutely what works for her.
Hmm.
So, be compatible, be compassionate to know that sometimes you do have to take a little bit of a break, even when you're on a roll, because it's supper time or it's time to go take a walk or it's time to walk the dog, that kind of thing. And that goes back to
Yeah.
that work-life balance thing. But I think that's another part of it. And when we talk about with Margaret, we can't help but talk about Charlie as well. Charlie has been so supportive and so kind, and he fixes me supper. So, when they were, and I'm way, way Eastern Colorado. They were way, way Northern Colorado for a long time. And, now that they're up north somewhere, I just kind of tease
Washington
about
State.
it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So the other day we were talking and he said, I'll fix you supper if you come. And
Yeah.
so we made the agreement that, yeah, we're going to go for an event. And he already has, I don't know, 4 days of meals planned or something. So, that's just Charlie. He's very accommodating. He's very kind. And he's so supportive of what she does. And,
Yeah.
he is kind of her ally as well. And if you have that, it's great. If you don't, you have to look at why. And I think like any job, it has to work. So cheers to
Yeah.
Charlie, cheers to Margaret. And I mean, and I hope that everybody finds, we've always said that we have that ideal thing. We have a wonderful author. We have a wonderful publishing house. And I figure in there somewhere, first I was the go-between, now we're all just friends. And it's such a comforting thing when you find that really great triad of components. So
Yeah.
that would be my wish. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Terry, thanks again. This is a great way, again, to wrap up the chat. So
Right.
thank you.
Right. Thank you too so much and happy everything because by the way, you're not doing so poorly yourself.
I'm very, very, very content with my career. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. Take care of yourself.